All right, welcome everybody to Infinite Impact Radio and TV, the show for impact influencers by impact influencers with world-changing missions. And I'm really excited today. It's somebody I've known for a while, and we've been going back and forth trying to get him on the show, trying to connect. And he's here today, and you guys are going to get an amazing just some amazing information today. I'm just telling you, you're going to be inspired when you're done. I know, because Vince, before we started, he was already taking off like a rocket ship, and I had to reel him back in. And he told me he was so passionate that he can't help himself. And I told him I love that. And so without further ado, this is Vince Rountree. He's a certified health coach, plant-based nutritionist, and he specializes in reversing chronic disease through food. So, did I miss anything, Vince? Anything else you want to add? And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Evans. You basically nailed it. Nothing else to add. I guess we'll just take it from here. My main concern is helping people to help themselves.
That's awesome. I love it. Love it. You can't create an impact on the world unless you're helping yourself first. So that's a great place to start.
Exactly.
Well, let's just dive in then. Let's go straight to it. You know, before we talked, I explained to you, I like to sort of go back in time a little bit and, you know, touch on your origin story, where, you know, how you came to sort of find this as being your mission and what you wanted to put out there in the world to change lives. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So in 2011, I was working in corporate America, had a corporate marketing job, and I went in for a regular physical. My physicals in the past have always been excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, we'll see you next year. But in 2011, when I went in for my physical, I was told that I had high cholesterol and I needed medication for that, and I was told that I had high blood pressure. I did not need medication for that, but it was elevated. And so doctor wrote me a prescription for statins to, you know, put me on the pills to get my cholesterol down. And I just didn't feel comfortable with that. I asked my doctor, well, why is it high? I don't want to just blindly take these pills that you're telling me I got to take every day for the rest of my life. Like, it's not like I get better at some point and I stop taking. No, every day for the rest of my life. And I said, well, why do I have to do that? I mean, you're telling me I'm inherently broken. And the only way to fix me is to take a pill. So why is it high? Like, what can I do other than take the pills? As well, it runs in your family. And so there's not much you can do. And I took that to mean that, well, he didn't know if there's anything else I can do, but I believed in my heart that there was something I was eating that caused it to be high. I didn't know what it was. And so I was completely agnostic. I looked at a lot of different diets or a lot of different eating patterns and wanted to see what would bring down cholesterol, what would bring down blood pressure, and what would prevent and reverse heart disease, because that's why cholesterol is a big deal. I looked at the Atkins meat-based diets. I looked at wheat belly diet. I looked at eat for your blood pressure type diet. They all had great headlines. They all had great anecdotes, but the science and the data behind it, I didn't really see. In my undergraduate degrees in chemical engineering, I really was looking for data to support. Didn't see anything. But when I found information on plant-based nutrition, that literally changed my life, because I found a doctor who was actually reversing heart disease with food. And that was a game changer. I found a doctor that conducted primary research and published primary research of people that had open heart surgery in the past. They had stents put in. They had heart attacks. They had severe angina. They had all of these heart conditions. Put these patients on unprocessed plant-based foods, and literally every one of them got better. every one of them. And so I was like, that should lower my cholesterol. That's what I want to try. And in 6 weeks, my cholesterol dropped over 100 points. It went from 240 down to 132. My blood pressure dropped 30 points. I lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And I was excited, but I was also confused that my doctor told me that it was nothing I can do. Now, let me tell you, when my doctor called me up with the results, he said, Vince, I got your results, but you need to be retested. I said, Doc, why do I need to be retested? He said, because I had you at 240 a few weeks ago, and now you're 132. And you didn't fill your prescription. So one of these two tests has got to be wrong and you should get retested. I said, Doc, thank you for that. I understand your confusion, but you really need to understand the power of plant-based nutrition. Did you know that you can reverse heart disease with plant-based nutrition? Lower cholesterol, lower blood pressure? Of course, he didn't know that. Why? Because that's not the type of training they get. Doctors' training is on how to prescribe medicine and how to do various procedures. They don't get any kind of training on how to use food to lower blood pressure, to lower blood glucose levels, to lower cholesterol levels. They don't get any training on that. So it wasn't his fault. He didn't have the training. So that's where I started. People in my office at the time asked me, hey, Vince, do you think this will work for me? I was like, yeah, man, let's try to eat this, eat this, eat this. And I was actually helping people get off pills. And that just became something that I just developed an insatiable appetite for learning the science, for understanding the science. I went and I earned several certificates in plant-based nutrition. Went back to Emory where I got my MBA, and they had a program to train you to be a health coach. I got certification in health coaching. And for the last several years, I've been on a mission to share this message with people and help people to actually get off of medication by treating the cause. You know, the best way I describe it is that if you have lung cancer and you smoke and you go to the doctor say, hey, listen, I can treat the lung cancer, but unless you stop smoking, you will always have an issue because the smoking is the cause. Well, what I have learned today is that if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have a whole host of various illnesses, unless you switch and start eating unprocessed plant-based foods, you'll be on these pills forever because that's the cause of heart disease, of stroke, of cholesterol. The cause is the food, so the cure is the food. If I put you on pills, I'm merely treating the symptoms because the cause is the food. So that's where I got started, Evans. And today my full-time business is helping people who want to help themselves. Now listen, if you're happy eating, bacon and eggs and steaks and ribs and you're on pills and you're fine with that, then I'm fine with that too. I still love you. God bless you. I mean, that's great. There's smokers that smoke a couple of packs of cigarettes a day. They know they got lung cancer. They know it's killing them. They're comfortable doing that. Great. God bless them. I love them. But on the other hand, if you're on these pills and you don't like it, if you are uncomfortable with the quality of your life, if you see that, I've got these kids or grandkids and I'm concerned I can't run around with them anymore. I'm concerned that, I may get a heart attack. I may get a stroke. If you've got those concerns and you're willing to try eating something different, then let me help. I mean, you just give me a few days, you will see in less than a week, literally, blood pressure can drop very, very quickly. Elevated glucose levels, if you got type 2 diabetes, can drop literally in a matter of days. We talk about my Lower Your Blood Pressure in 10 Days challenge. It's a program that I created because the time period is very short. It's just 10 days. When I run this challenge, I literally have some people that during the 10 days, they've got to get off their pills. Because if they keep taking the pills, their blood pressure will drop so low that they'll pass out.
Wow.
Because food is the cause. So if you treat the cause and you keep taking the pills, you could be taking pills for a disease that you don't have anymore. And that's what we've experienced.
That's awesome. So I told everybody he was passionate. So I didn't want to interrupt you. I wanted you to just run with it. And that was great. But there's a lot of stuff to unpack. And I want to go back even, back still to your previous self a little bit. Now, what was your lifestyle like then, besides like the stress of working in a corporate job? I mean, obviously that's a little stressful, but as far as eating and nutrition wise, exercise wise, were you just like, over the deep end, like really bad with what you were doing? Or
no,
were you just, an average adult eats in the US?
I would say I ate better than the average adult. That's why I was upset that my cholesterol levels were high.
Right.
I exercised. I was in pretty good shape. I had, I would not eat things like French fries because I didn't want the grease from the fried food. I didn't do like the potato chips and the Doritos. That stuff would never come into my house. I didn't drink soda. I would choose a turkey bacon over the regular bacon. Give me the turkey burgers, right? So I did the stuff that we were taught to do. I mean, we think, okay, so I'm going to be healthy. Cut back on the red meat, eat more chicken, right? That's what we're all taught. From the standpoint of cholesterol, from the standpoint of blood pressure, very little improvement from that. Very little. Big improvement when you go from the chicken to eating black beans, or you go to eating more vegetables, you go to eating more fruits. Now you cut back and make the switch. Even fish, I couldn't believe. I mean, come on, man. You can't tell me that fish isn't healthy. I'm here to tell you that if you want to lower your blood pressure, if you want to lower your cholesterol, I'm here to tell you, if you get rid of even the fish, even the chicken, pull the skin off the chicken, right? So even if you do all of that, there is no comparison. I did all of that, okay? And I still had the high blood pressure. I still had the high cholesterol. And and that's actually what really got me going on it, because I really thought that I was eating healthy. I exercised. From the outside looking in, I didn't look overweight. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, and I was like 192 pounds. But today, I'm 172, 173 pounds. And that was from 2011. So, that was 9 years ago.
That's pretty amazing, because you were eating, before this incarnation of myself, I was actually a personal trainer many years ago. So what you're discussing was basically what I was trying to get my clients to do, to switch from their, fast food, eating bagged chips, all that kind of junk, and putting them on what you were discussing just then, which to us was always like, well, that is really healthy. If you can, and that seemed really hard for people, but the ones that were doing it, like yourself, were thinking, well, this has got to make me healthy. I mean, look at what I'm doing. I'm like one of the top, 10% in eating healthy, probably compared to the general population. So, I mean, that's pretty amazing to find out that even following that kind of lifestyle. And I mean, I know from now seeing you how fit you are, so I can tell, I mean, it's not like you weren't obese, you were in shape. So that's really, I mean, that's eye-opening for all of us.
Evans, one of the things that has blown me away, we live in a country where the number one cause of death in this country is heart disease. Number one cause of death. Every 40 seconds, literally, since we've been on this call, over a dozen people have already died of heart disease since we started this call. Wow. Every 40 seconds. We lose over 1,000 people a day die of heart disease. The Tarahumara Indians in Mexico. If you go to rural China, If you go to rural Africa, you know how many people die of heart disease? None. Isn't that amazing?
That is.
The number one cause of death here, they got none. Zero. It doesn't exist. Do you think it's some genetic difference? It's not in the genetics. It's the food. What we've become accustomed, what is totally normal for us is eating food that makes us sick. And the data that I just described to you of countries where people don't have that, that's what we call observational data, epidemiological data. We look at, we observe. That doesn't prove causation, but we can prove causation by what Esselstyn, that's what I saw when I was looking for my solution for my high cholesterol and high blood pressure, where you take people that have heart disease, put them on plant-based nutrition and intervention, and watch what happens. We watch people get better, just like what happened to my cholesterol. And that is my full-time business today. I watch people get better. Our norm, what we consider as natural and normal, is people getting heart disease. And let me tell you something else scary about heart disease. Half the people that have heart disease, you know what their first symptom is going to be?
Probably a heart attack.
Death.
Wow.
The first symptom is death. They call high blood pressure the silent killer. Probably heard that.
Yeah.
Because you can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't taste it, and unless you measure your blood pressure, you can't detect it. Atherosclerosis is the process of your arteries getting clogged. And if that inner wall of the artery can get so clogged that it ruptures, that's a heart attack. If that happens to an artery in your heart, that's a heart attack. If it happens to an artery to your brain, that's a stroke. You can't feel that coming. You don't know. For many people, they don't know. Their first symptom is death. That's a scary thing.
Yeah.
But what's amazing is there is no medical procedure that can reverse that. But plant-based nutrition actually can reverse the atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis, I'm sorry for using the medical word, but it's a process, and I normally talk about that when I'm giving presentations, and I can show you an image of it. So without an image, it's kind of hard to describe, but if you think of your artery being like a garden hose, and imagine the wall of that garden hose getting thicker and thicker. So imagine that inside of that garden hose, the wall of the hose starts to grow. And as the wall of the garden hose starts to grow, the blood's got less of an area to flow through. The opening of the hose gets smaller and smaller because the thickness of the hose is getting thicker and thicker. And if the inside of that garden hose ruptures, then everything downstream gets blocked up. That's a heart attack. That is atherosclerosis, is the process of that garden hose wall getting thicker and thicker. If that happens to your arteries, and guess what? For most Americans, literally from the age of 10 years old, okay, to adolescence, by the time you're 20, if you've been exposed to the standard American diet, you've got some degree of atherosclerosis. Maybe not enough for symptoms, maybe not enough to cause a problem then, but they know that started back in Korea and Vietnam when they did autopsies on the casualties from the war. They saw signs of atherosclerosis. Okay, and there have been studies done of young adults and teenagers. It's called the PADE study, where they did autopsies on these young people that died from other causes. Atherosclerosis was already present. Not enough to cause a problem. It was already present. It starts very, very young because we naturally, from an early age, start eating the chicken, start eating the bacon and eggs. That's normal for us. And that causes atherosclerosis. But what's amazing is that actually can be reversed. The doctors didn't even think that was possible. You know, one of the first pioneers in this field, a guy by the name of Walter Kempner. He came to the U.S. from Germany back in the 30s to avoid, Hitler, and he put patients. He went to, and actually in your area, he went to Duke Medical, to Duke University back in the mid to late 30s, and at the time there was no diabetes medication at that time. If you got diabetes, you would have been a heart attack and you would die, right? There was no, and so he felt like, I don't know how he had this idea to put people on literally a rice diet. They ate nothing but rice and fruit. That's it, rice and fruit. Blood pressure, tremendous drop. Oh my God, blood pressure and there was no blood pressure pills at that time. And there's graphs showing the blood pressure here, and then literally it just completely dropped. The amazing thing is the blood glucose levels dropped. Now you wouldn't, that is opposite, it's counterintuitive. Because we know that rice and fruit is nothing but carbs. Right. So your natural instinct is those carbs convert to glucose. So if you take somebody that's got diabetes and you put them on rice and fruit, by the way, I don't recommend rice and fruit as a diet. Okay, now I'm just telling you the history. I recommend fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, legumes, lentils, potatoes, oatmeal, all unprocessed plant-based foods. That's what I recommend. Okay, but what Walter Kempner put people on back in the late 30s was rice and fruit. Very high carb, nothing but carbs. And their glucose dropped like a rock. How in the heck did that happen? How do you feed people more carbs that converts to more glucose, but their blood glucose levels drop? How does that happen? Here is how it happens. Our body runs on glucose. We've got millions of muscle cells throughout our body. On a cellular level, we've got millions of muscle cells in our body. The fuel that those muscle cells run on is glucose. The mitochondria is like the engine in that muscle cell. And that mitochondria needs glucose. Glucose is the fuel. When you've got type 2 diabetes, very different than type 1, right now we're talking type 2. When you have type 2 diabetes, what is actually happening is you are in a state of what's called insulin resistance. And insulin resistance means that insulin is not able to get that glucose from the bloodstream into the muscle cell. That's the process. When the glucose level builds up in your bloodstream, that signals the pancreas to make insulin. Insulin's job is to open up the door and let the glucose come inside. Okay, glucose, come on in. We need your energy. And when the glucose gets from the bloodstream into the muscle cell, then the glucose levels in your blood goes down. So what happened to Walt Kempner's patients? When he took them off of hamburgers, when he took them off of chicken, when he took them off of fish, the saturated fat that was already in those muscle cells was telling beforehand, it's like the muscle cells were full. We can't take that glucose into the muscle cells because we're full. We're full of the fat from that animal-based foods. And so when they stop eating the animal-based foods, what happens? The fat that's in there drains out. And without that fat in those muscle cells, the glucose can come in. So it's counterintuitive to think, eat more carbs that converts to glucose, and your blood glucose levels can actually drop. But the reason why is because on a cellular level, you're treating the cause. The cause of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. And insulin resistance is caused by fat in the muscle cell. When you stop eating saturated fats, which comes from all animal products and some plant-based products, but that saturated fat when it drains out of the muscle cells, then glucose can get in there and your glucose levels drop. And that's why we can reverse type 2 diabetes with plant-based nutrition.
That's amazing. And it seems so obvious in some ways, you know. It seems like the answer is right there in front of us. And I'm sure we could get into like a long discussion about why American citizens are not receiving those answers on a grander scale, because it all has to do with money. He's making the money symbol. I understand that 100%, but I want to jump over, just take a little bit of a different turn, because a lot of people that listen to this are entrepreneurs like yourself that have this mission, and they've decided that they want to, you know, follow that mission. And one of the things we talk about is, you know, how to get that message out. You know, how do you shine to attract and affect the right people? Which, if you're listening to some of your messaging, I can tell you some of yours is just on point. Like, you want to work with people who want to help themselves.
Exactly.
And that's perfect. So, I mean, looking at it that way, I mean, what exactly are you doing besides coming on this podcast? What are the other things you're doing to get your message out to the right people, that other entrepreneurs who want to impact people positively, that they can be doing as well? What's working for you?
Well, what our business coach, Russell Brunson, says is you got to publish, right?
Yes.
You got to publish. You got to be loud. You got to tell your story so much that you may get tired of hearing it. You know, how many times have we heard Russell's wrestling stories? And, you know, he says them so many times, and that's what we have to do. You got to tell your story over and over and over and a gazillion times. And so I post on Facebook. So far, all of my traffic is actually organic from, you know, Facebook videos and Facebook postings. I think I will have to start advertising shortly to attract a larger audience. But publishing as much as possible in as many different venues as possible is the answer. You know, because people have to hear your voice, hear your message. Today, there's so many different venues. I mean, you know, between YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, I mean, there's so many different venues today that you kind of have to decide, well, what am I going to conquer and how am I going to conquer it and what's my strategy of doing it? I can certainly do a much better job of that. That's an area that I'm focusing to improve upon, you know, through, you know, 2020. Because I'm not loud enough. I don't publish enough. I don't speak enough. But that is the answer. I mean, you got to publish. And I thank you for having me on your show. So you're exposing me to your audience. But that's part of the strategy. You know, get on as many podcasts as possible. Get in front of as many people as you possibly can, and your message will resonate with people that it'll resonate with, right? I mean, and one of the things that I have learned is that everybody's voice is unique, and you know, if you've raised kids, you know, you can tell your kids something, and like, all right, Dad, and then your brother, their uncle, can say the exact same thing, and the kid just gets it and does it. You're like, damn it, that's what I've been trying to tell you. The same thing happens with whatever your message is.
Right.
My message is around plant-based nutrition and the fact that we can reverse chronic disease with plant-based nutrition. And I've learned from these medical professionals. Before I started doing what I'm doing now, my big concern was, why would anybody listen to me? And there's all of these experts that I'm listening to. Why should I do this? They know more than I do. I learned from them. And I'm not a medical doctor. So why should I even do this? What I've learned is, just like my kid may listen to my brother before he listens to me, before they listen to me, is that there are people that will resonate with my unique voice that won't seek out those doctors that I listen to. And it's the same thing with your audience members. Everybody, if you're in the sound of my voice, you have a message. And your voice, your unique way of saying what you say will resonate with people that other experts, they will not resonate with those other experts. So just be you and be loud and publish.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's like some of the best advice, that we probably past 2 or 3 episodes, other people I've interviewed, it's all about, find your authentic self. And if you're yourself, your true self, you have no competition.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I love it. Cause I mean, right now, and I'll ask you this too, with all the noise out there, coming from different directions, you have your, like you were mentioning earlier, all the different diets, all the, you have the keto diet, the, whatever they are, the DASH diet, all these things. And then you have movies like Game Changers comes out. Then you have movies like on other, I know I watched something, I can't remember what it's called. It was about keto. Mm-hmm. And it's just a constant bombardment. So for yourself, and speaking to the other entrepreneurs who may be in a similar situation where there's so much noise coming in to the audience they're trying to reach, how do you sort of cut through all that and get your point across to people? I mean, with all the confusing messages out there.
For me, the way that has manifested itself for me is I had to find my true north. I had to find my North Star. In the world of nutrition and diet, to your point, it is incredibly confusing. Incredibly confusing. You may or may not know that after Game Changers came out, Chris Kresser went on Joe Rogan's podcast. Chris Kresser is a guy that's, well, I don't know how to describe him. I think he's pro keto diet. He's definitely pro meat, but he's not anti-vegetables. He believes in plant-based with meat. And he thinks that's the healthiest diet, is that you got to have some meat as part of your overall diet. And if you don't have meat, then you won't get all of the nutrients that you need. Well, Chris Kresser went on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he just slammed Game Changers and just went in, and you won't get protein, and you won't get, without the B12, you're gonna, he just went in. And to Joe Rogan's credit, he had a second follow-up podcast where he had Chris Kresser and James Wilks. Now, James Wilks is the guy that Game Changers is about. James Wilks' story.
Right.
So to Joe Rogan's credit, he brought both of them back on. So he gave James Wilks the opportunity to defend himself. And boy, did he defend himself. I mean, it was a 3.5-hour podcast, and he just clicked off. Here's why the B12 issue can be handled. Here's why you can get enough protein. Here's why the quality of protein. And he literally slammed every one of them. Okay, that's a bit of a tangent, but the point is there is this confusion. And my true north on why I can stay grounded in what I believe is I have seen physical proof of reversal of heart disease. That physical proof comes in an angiogram. An angiogram is a picture of your arteries. Mm-hmm. So when that's done to the heart, so the heart has 3 main arteries, and one of those arteries in particular, that left, is called the LAD, left anterior descending. That one is considered the widowmaker, because that one, if you get atherosclerosis or clog into that artery, it doesn't give you a lot of symptoms. That's the reason why the first symptom to many people with heart disease is death, because that artery can get atherosclerosis, and if it ruptures, you can die with no warning. my true north is Dr. Esselstyn, who's the guy that I learned from on reversing heart disease. Dr. Esselstyn showed an angiogram of a clogged left anterior descending artery. The atherosclerosis showed blockage that was like 95 to 100% blocked artery. The only intervention that this patient had was plant-based nutrition. Didn't take blood pressure meds, didn't take cholesterol meds, didn't take any medication. They took this patient that had severe clogged left anterior descending, put them on plant-based nutrition, and then he showed a later angiogram, and that artery was wide open. It was complete reversal of heart disease, the #1 cause of death in the country. That one before and after is my true north. As I hear information from all of these other diets, I'm like, can you show me an angiogram of a before and after of heart disease where the heart disease is completely reversed? Okay, can you show me where you put, so Esselstyn's first study was started off with 24 patients. 6 of them said, well, I'm not going to eat these unprocessed foods. So unprocessed plant-based foods, I want to eat my old diet. So that became his control group. 18 of them said, yes, I'll do this. The 18 that did it, they all got better. When you can show me that on any other diet, now you'll have my attention. I have not seen that. The main criticism of that data was people said, yeah, okay, well, that's only 18. So Esselstyn then did a follow-up study of 198 people. 177 of them stuck with the diet, 21 of them did not. Of the 177 that stuck with the program, 176 of them got better. The only one that didn't, he got off the program. Literally, everybody who does this, they get better. That's my true north. That's why so as I listen to other data, and still my background and my heart is science, okay? And as I listen to that podcast where Joe Rogan had James Wilkes and Chris Kresser on, and I'm listening to them go back and forth, and this study does this, and then this doctor says this, and this study, and this study, and this study, and this study. It's really confusing. And at the end of the day, James Wilkes proved his case. But that's still very confusing for all of us. But at the end of the day, the #1 cause of death, we have proof that you can reverse it with plant-based nutrition. I have not seen proof of that happening with any other form of eating. So that's what keeps me grounded. That's what allows me to see the truth through all of the noise. And there is a ton of noise because there's a lot of money in selling other supplements or in selling other books and selling other programs. There's a ton of money in that. You know, we spend $1 billion a day on heart disease today. Do you know that?
Wow.
We spend $360 billion a year, literally $1 billion a day. It's on pace to get to $1 trillion in the next 10 years. Yet, the cultures that eat plant-based nutrition, they got 0 heart disease. What's wrong with that picture, man?
Right.
We don't focus on the cause. I mean, the health industry's got they're 360 billion. Oh my God, how much good could I do if I just had $1 billion to show you the benefits of plant-based nutrition? But we don't have that. So there are hundreds of little me's out there without the money trying to say, listen, all you gotta do is eat more oatmeal and broccoli and watermelon and brown rice and black beans and lentils, and you can prevent yourself from getting these illnesses. And if you have these illnesses, you can reverse it.
Well, I think what's one thing that's important, and then we're gonna have to wrap up, but I want to touch on your challenge before we do a little bit.
Thank you.
But one thing that you said that was really important there, that's the whole theme of this podcast, is that you are that one person. Yes, you're just one person, but you're creating a ripple effect. And the people that you are reaching in your immediate circle, like through your challenge, their lives are changing. They are telling their family, their friends, they're changing lives, and it continues and continues. So I think that's the most important thing that all of us should focus on. You know, no matter, I mean, I don't think I've interviewed another person on this podcast who is up against such a massive, industry and a massive, amounts of money pushing other things as you are, because, it's just ridiculous between the pharmaceutical industry, all the lobbyists for the beef companies, everything else. I mean, like you said, it's just money to be made. But you are making a difference. And that's what everybody needs to take away from this. No matter if you feel like you are the tiniest pebble out there, if you land in that water, you're going to create a ripple effect. So we appreciate you for that. Definitely spreading your message. So before we do leave, I want you to just dive into your challenge real quick for us. Because the thing I like about it that I want everybody to pay attention to is that it's not some crazy, 30-day, you're going to learn 10 different things. It's like a challenge that's going to teach you one thing and give you one big result that's going to be a life-changing result. So if you would just dive into that, sort of explain how it happens, what they can expect, where they can jump into your challenge. And then maybe if you have a second, share some of the transformations that you've seen through the people going through your challenge.
Yeah. Thank you for that opportunity, Evans. High blood pressure affects 100 million people in the US. It's called the silent killer. It's a big deal because it is the number one risk factor for heart disease. It's the number one risk factor for stroke. You have an elevated risk of blindness, elevated risk of kidney damage. There are tens of millions of people on blood pressure medication, and it's very, very dangerous. I created this challenge because I want people to experience firsthand for yourself. You can read books, you can watch documentaries, you can hear people speak, but I want to give you an opportunity where you can try for yourself. 10 days. Listen, you can do anything for 10 days. I'm not asking you to change the rest of your life. You give me 10 days. If you want to lower your blood pressure, give me 10 days. If you're diabetic, if you want to lower your blood glucose levels, give me 10 days. If you've got high cholesterol, just give me 10 days. But I'm focusing specifically on blood pressure because it's easier to measure, right? And so I created this challenge called the Lower Your Blood Pressure in 10 Days Challenge, where I will provide for you all of the recipes that you need, the grocery list you need, and more importantly, the information on how to incorporate this into your lifestyle. It's a live challenge. It takes a lot of time for me. I go online and give you tons of information and listen to your concerns during the challenge. And I address those concerns, and you measure your blood pressure at the beginning of the challenge and your weight at the beginning of the challenge. If you're on blood pressure meds, I need you to measure your blood pressure every day. Why? Because food is so directly related to your blood pressure that we have people in the challenge in 10 days that their blood pressure dropped so much that they got to stop taking their pills.
Right.
So if you're on meds, you have to measure your blood pressure every day. Okay. And within that time, literally everybody who participated in this challenge, they saw a drop in their blood pressure and they saw a drop in their weight. Everybody. So I can tell you about one of the people that went through the challenge. I got a woman that went through the challenge, and she's one of the ones that during the challenge itself, she's like, Vince, I took my blood pressure meds today. My blood pressure dropped to like 80 over 60 something. I'm like, oh my God, that is like way too low, right? 120 over 80 is what's considered normal. If you can get it down to 110 over 70, that's like really, really good. Well, hers dropped down to like 80 over 60. So I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you stop taking your pills. So all I can say is contact your doctor and let your doctor tell you that, because right. Medically I can't tell you to do that, right? So so she did that. She literally got off her pills. She sent me a text not long ago. Her cholesterol is down. Her blood glucose level is down. Her fasting blood glucose is now dropped to 100, which is basically not diabetic anymore. Diabetes is so below 100 is non-diabetic. So like between 70 and 99 is where you really want it to be. From 100 to 125 is considered pre-diabetes. 125 and above is considered diabetes. So her fasting glucose level is 100. So, and she is so happy. She's so happy. And yeah, so we're, for me, it's just such a thrill when I have people contact me and say, hey, I'm not diabetic anymore. I'm off my meds, or I don't have high blood pressure anymore. I'm off my meds. I don't have high cholesterol anymore. I'm not on my pills. And it's one thing to read that in a book. It's one thing to, try to figure out, boy, how do I do this? Maybe you've watched Game Changers, or you've seen What the Health or something, and you're like, I've heard about this, I don't know how to do it. Join my challenge. I'll show you how to do it. And you will be a partner with other people that'll be doing it as well. And you'll experience it for yourself. I mean, this is not theoretical hogwash. This is actual results. Give me 10 days. Just give me 10 days. And you measure for yourself, and then let's just see what happens.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm sitting here listening to this, and I'm thinking about back when I was a personal trainer. And I remember the biggest issue that I could get people, good results, get them exercising. And, I wasn't a trainer who was like, I got to get you beefy or this. I was more focused on, let's just get you exercising for the mental and spiritual feelings. It's going to make you feel better about yourself, which is going to lead to better habits. Exactly. But the biggest thing was always, what are you eating? I'd have to ask them, what are you putting in your body? And of course, like I told you earlier, I always thought, I was like, well, you need to, boneless chicken breast, steamed rice, I was doing brown rice, but still getting them to actually put the right things in their body, which I thought were the right things, that was an impossible task. So with you doing this challenge and providing the meal plan, showing them what to shop for, having the accountability, which is huge, as you and I know, like doing anything, being in that group where other people are there to support you besides yourself. The other people that are walking the same journey are there to, pick you up when you sort of stumble. That's huge. So, and for it to be, as short as it is, and to give you those quick wins, this is something that I would encourage everybody to check out. And one thing I know, like I said earlier, a lot of entrepreneurs listen to this. Mm-hmm. As entrepreneurs, we tend to forget that one of our most important, if not our most important asset, is ourselves.
Sure.
So, for the entrepreneurs listening to this too, I would encourage you to go check out this challenge and see, because I'm sure you could probably tell everybody, you're probably not just seeing those results, but you're probably getting a lot of other benefits like more energy, probably sleeping better, all these things that are going to help. If the entrepreneurs are out there listening, this is going to help you, with your business. So it's not just I'm saying this because I'm already thinking a lot of entrepreneurs, as are thinking, well, I'm not as worried about my health as I am about my business, but you need to be worried about your health first or you won't have a business.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, well, I appreciate it, man. We could go on forever and ever, but we got to wrap up. So let's tell everybody real quick where they can get that. And I'm also going to put it in the show notes, but where they can get that challenge and get started with you.
Well, the first way, the first way to get into that is I want to give you a free book. I wrote a book called "Lower Your Blood Pressure with Food." Food is the cause, food is the cure. And you can get my free book on the website lowerbpnow.com. lowerbpnow.com.
Awesome.
You go there and then you can download the book. And then after you download it, the thank you page of that has a link that can get you into the challenge. The next challenge is going to be in January for those that are listening to this right after. But then we'll do them on a regular basis, depending upon whenever you listen to this. So you can get on the waiting list. Or if you want to go just try and see the direct page of the challenge is bp-challenge.com. BP for blood pressure, bp-challenge.com. If you go there, you'll either be taken to the sales page where you'll get more information if it's open, or you'll be taken to a waiting list page. And again, this is a live challenge that I'm involved in. So if I'm in the middle of a challenge or I'm just finishing a challenge, then you can't sign up. You got to wait until I finish, and then I open up and take the next one. So it's kind of like I'm your tour guide, and I sell it, and then I tour people through. And while I'm touring people through, well, everything is closed until I'm finished touring. Then I come back, and then I'll bring the next group through. So
what else could you ask for? You get you yourself there helping people through this 10-day journey. So that's exactly. Awesome.
Exactly. So that's the best way to reach out to me. You can find me on Facebook at Vince Rountree. And there's no D in the Rountree, Rountree. I'm starting a free Facebook group called Food is the Cause. In fact, by the time you hear this, that'll be open. So if you go to Facebook groups and search for Food is the Cause, that's my free Facebook group where I'm giving people tons of information, just like you're getting right now. So that's awesome. Another place I'd love for you to join.
Yeah, that's perfect. So if you decide you want to do the challenge and you have to get on the wait list, make sure you go in that group, start meeting some of the other people in the group that have probably either gone through the challenge or will be going with you, and get some valuable info for free. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, Vince, I appreciate it. I'm so glad we finally got you on here, and this has been amazing. And we appreciate you for what you do. It's a great service, and just keep causing those ripples of positive impact out there. You're fighting an uphill battle, but you're changing lives, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, thanks, Evan. You're exactly right. I mean, the healthcare industry is a $3 trillion industry, and so yeah, we're up against that. But we got truth on our side, and we're making a difference. If I can just take one person who was on the path of headed towards heart attack or stroke and make them better, then that's why I do it, man. I mean, because there's people that need this message, and unfortunately, doctors aren't trained on it, and so most doctors won't tell you that the cause is the food. So if you're in the sound of my voice, you want to learn more about it, either go to my challenge or join my free Facebook group, and I want to help you.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. And like I said, I'll have all that information in the show notes down below this, so everybody check it out. And Vince, You have a wonderful day, and we will talk to you soon.
Very good. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Evans, for having me on your show.
Thank you. You're welcome.